For more than a century, one question about Adolf Hitler seemed permanently unanswerable. Where did he actually come from? The man who preached Aryan blood purity had no clear paternal lineage. Hitler's father, Alois, was born in June 1837 in rural Austria to Maria Anna Schicklgruber, an unmarried 42-year-old peasant. In the parish baptismal register, the space for Alois's father was left blank. The priest simply wrote illegitimate. When Maria married a wandering miller, Johann Georg Hitler, in 1842, Alois went to live with Johann Georg's brother, Johann Nepomuk. Decades later, in 1876, Nepomuk took a highly unusual step. He appeared before a notary with witnesses and swore that his long-dead brother Johann Georg had always acknowledged Alois as his son. The priest then crossed out Schicklgruber and replaced it with Hitler, effectively rewriting the boy's origins. But that only deepened the mystery. Who really fathered Alois, Georg, Nepomuk, or someone else entirely? Hitler himself never identified his grandfather. The only hint he ever gave was a cryptic reference in Mein Kampf to a poor little cottager as his maternal grandfather, a description that fits neither Johann Georg nor Nepomuk. He certainly did not want this matter examined. When Albert Speer once told him a sign had been erected in Spital saying, "The Führer lived here in his youth," Hitler flew into a rage and had it removed immediately. For nearly 150 years, the question hung in the air. Who was Alois Hitler's father? After World War II, Hitler's former lawyer Hans Frank claimed Hitler had ordered him to investigate that question. According to Frank, Maria Schicklgruber had worked as a cook for a Jewish family in Graz and been impregnated by their 19-year-old son, Leopold Frankenberger. If true, Hitler would have had a Jewish grandfather. Historians, however, dismissed this story almost out of hand. In 1957, the archivist Nikolaus von Preradovic asserted that not a single Jew lived in Graz before 1856, meaning the Frankenberger tale was impossible. No independent research ever confirmed Preradovich's claim, yet it sank into the academic consensus like a stone. Scholars today agree. There is no evidence any Jewish family named Frankenberger was in Graz at that time, and the story rests solely on Frank's unverified report. Serious historians settled on a simpler idea. Alois's father was either Johann Georg Hitler or Johann Nepomuk Hitler. Hitler himself never pursued the matter publicly, but his silence spoke volumes. Then, in 2010, new science seemed to promise an answer. Belgian journalist Jean-Paul Mulders and historian Mark Vermeeren collected saliva from 39 living male line relatives of Adolf Hitler, distant kinsmen in Europe and the US, and analyzed their Y-chromosomes. The Y-chromosome passes almost unchanged from father to son. The result was unexpected. The relatives all carried haplogroup E1b1b. This lineage is very rare in Germany and Austria, only about 9% of men, but common in North Africa and among some Jewish populations. In fact, E1b1b appears in roughly 18 to 20% of Ashkenazi Jews. Headlines leapt to the sensational conclusion: Hitler descended from Jews and Africans. It was a provocative finding. But the story wasn't that simple. Famously, the geneticist Michael Hammer of Family Tree DNA warned against over-interpretation. He pointed out that E1b1b in Austria and Germany overwhelmingly comes from non-Jewish lines. No more than 9% of the population of Germany and Austria belong to haplogroup E1b1b, and among those, about 80% are not associated with Jewish ancestry, he noted. Haplogroup E1b1b arose tens of thousands of years ago in East Africa and spread widely. Carrying it today says nothing specific about recent ancestors. Many men of European heritage have this marker without any Near Eastern or North African heritage. Mulders himself clarified that he never claimed Hitler was a Jew, only that his Y chromosome belonged to a branch more common among Berbers, Somalis, or Jews than among ethnic Germans. In short, The 2010 study was a curiosity. It hinted at deep ancestral threads, but told us nothing definitive about Hitler's immediate family. It assumed an unbroken paternal line through many generations. One hidden non-paternity event could undo the inference entirely. Critics noted the methodology would never pass muster in a forensic genetics journal. What the 2010 results really were was a provocation dressed as a conclusion. They confirmed that the Hitler male line carried a rare Y-chromosome, but they did not confirm any hidden Jewish or African forebear. The only way to be sure was to analyze Hitler's own DNA, long thought impossible. But an astonishing opportunity arose. In 2009, U.S. archaeologist Nick Bellantoni flew to Moscow to inspect Hitler's last possessions in the Russian archives. A bullet-pierced fragment of skull and a blood-stained sofa from the Führerbunker, recovered by Soviet troops in 1945. Bellantoni had only an hour. He carefully swabbed the sofa's upholstery and the skull fragment, then flew the samples back to the Yukon Genetics Lab. There, scientist Linda Straussbaugh managed to extract DNA from each relic. The verdict on the skull was immediate and stunning. Its DNA was female. The fragment Russians had always pointed to as Hitler's, on display in Moscow since 2000, had come from a young woman, not the Führer. The sofa blood was different. In 2021, Professor Turi King, who'd famously verified Richard III's remains, and her team at the University of Bath took up the case. Over 4 painstaking years, they verified and sequenced the DNA from that tiny blood-stained fabric swatch. They then compared it to the Y-chromosome of Hitler's known male line kin. The match was there. The blood on the sofa was Hitler's. And critically, the Y-chromosome matched the family tree exactly. Hitler's male line ancestry ran straight through Alois, as recorded. In other words, if Alois's real father had been someone outside the Hitler/Hitler line, the hypothetical Jewish Leopold Frankenberger, or any unknown man, the Y-chromosome would not have matched. The continuity had to hold. With this match, the Frankenberger legend was at last silenced. The DNA confirmed what historians long assumed. There was no secret Jewish grandfather. As King's team put it, the testing confirmed beyond doubt that Hitler's family tree contains no Frankenberger branch. But the DNA had one more secret. Once they had Hitler's genome, King and colleagues searched it for genetic variants of interest. They found a striking mutation, a deletion in the PROK2 gene. This variant is known to cause Kallmann syndrome, a rare disorder that prevents a boy from initiating puberty properly. Men with Kallmann often have low testosterone, an undescended testicle, or an underdeveloped penis. In fact, historians had already uncovered a clue. A 1923 medical exam report, rediscovered in 2010, recorded that Hitler had a right-side cryptorchidism, one undescended testicle. That fits the genetic finding. Today, this suggests a possible cause for 2 long-noted facts about Hitler. He was notoriously uncomfortable with women and apparently never had an intimate relationship until marrying Eva Braun in the bunker room on April 29, 1945, one day before their deaths and with no children. A rare genetic quirk helped shape his private life. The team also ran Hitler's DNA through the growing field of polygenic risk scores. Comparing his genome to tens of thousands of Danes, they found that Hitler's combined scores for schizophrenia, autism, and bipolar disorder all fell in the top 1% of the population. In popular terms, this might sound damning, but scientists are quick to caution that a high polygenic score is not a medical diagnosis. Even among people with top percentile scores, most do not actually have the condition. The point of polygenic risk is statistical, not determinate. King herself emphasized, one cannot say Hitler had autism or schizophrenia, only that his genes gave him a relatively high genetic loading for those traits. When Channel 4 aired a documentary about these findings in late 2025, the response was explosive. Geneticist Adam Rutherford blasted it as a deluge of misinformation and bad science. Critics from BBC to The Guardian seized on the most sensational claims. They pointed out that polygenic scores say nothing about individual destiny, only population trends. Attaching stigmatizing labels like Hitler had autism risked hurting millions who share those conditions. Even supporters admitted caution. As The Guardian noted, King repeatedly warned the filmmakers that one cannot say for certain that Hitler had any of these conditions, only that he was in the highest percentile in terms of genetic load. But those caveats were downplayed. In the final cut, a roughly higher-than-average risk was recast as a propensity for ADHD and other disorders. In the scramble for headlines, nuance was lost. Still, once the dust settles, what Hitler's DNA really tells us is unsettlingly plain. The one man in history most obsessed with blood and race was himself a genetic outlier. His secret ancestor was neither Jewish nor African, but rather a mutated gene, one that under Nazi racial hygiene would have branded him unfit. As Dr. King put it, if Hitler had seen these results without knowing whose they were, he would likely have condemned that man as degenerate. The dictator who created the Holocaust could not have passed his own purity test. Today, the blood-stained sofa exists as a silent relic. The skull fragment belongs to a stranger. The archives still hold Alois's true father's name, somewhere in those parish registers of rural Austria. If Hitler's DNA teaches us one thing, it may be this: the obsession with pure blood was always a lie. But whose lie was it really? The lie of an ideology he preached, or the secret he suspected in his own blood? If you want more stories where DNA flips history on its head, hit subscribe. The next one is even crazier than this.